Mommy, if you love me, why does it feel so icky?
Many a man before you, in his dreams, has shared his mother's bed.
I survived you, and now I speak for the boy you buried.
The woman who sang you lullabies has become your nightmare. Who do you turn to when it's her? We are Mother Maid.
I wrote the first edition of this book in 1994 as my master's thesis. At that time, I knew nothing about mother-son incest, and believed, like many others, that this form is very rare, if it even existed. I chose mother-son incest as my topic because I selfishly believe my thesis would be a piece of cake, and I would need to do as I thought was to explain why mother-son incest does not happen, and my work would be done. Boy, was I wrong. The more I researched the topic, the more I realized mother-son incest is a reality. Page 6, Mother-son incest. The unthinkable taboo persist. Hani G. Maletsky, Ph.D., MSW.
I did not know what normal love was. I only knew you.
Good day, this is Just Joe, and I want to welcome you to Mother Maid, our first episode. Here in the beginning, I want to just first say a word of gratitude. I want to acknowledge the two women who helped make this moment in this podcast possible. The first, without a name we all have, is my mother. The second would be Dr. Hani G. Maletsky. My mom brought me to the moment that I am to here today, and the doctor here brought to light the subject for me to be able to pinpoint it. Where I am going to plug the book. It is worth getting. It is on my website at www.soffender.com/mothermaid. Again, that's www.soffender.com/mothermaid. And the name of the book is Mother-Son Incest, The Unthinkable Broken Taboo Persist. Why am I doing this? There really is twofold purposes here. One is very selfish. I need to speak the truth. I have a rare mental illness, and one of the advantages of it that I have found is that it allows me to manage each of the traumas and experience them one at a time so I can heal one at a time. And this is one of the deep personalities, and I just call it the Oedipus personality. And so I just want to speak my truth because I have learned by speaking my truth, I'm eliminated, and I'm healing through telling this. Now, the selfless reasons is also what I've learned. I want to shine a light in a dark corner, a very dark corner, and so others might feel safe, that they're seen, and maybe even brave enough to step out of the silence. I think what you'll find is that most people aren't even aware that they are survivors or victims of mother-son incest. These podcasts will have an open mic, which you'll hear usually typically be the opening bit, meeting a bit of scripted education, raw and improvised, which will be some of our interviews, and others are structured like a class because sometimes the heart needs a syllabus. Today's journey, we're going to go from nature to taboo, a journey through incest and interbreeding. Nature gave us instincts. Taboo taught us shame. We're walking the line between those today. We're going to define the beast. What is mother-son incest? And then we're going to anchor it with Dr. Hani Maletsky's work. We're going to share some of her key findings and quotes and validate the experience with research and not just anecdotes. And then at the end here, we'll be going into the mother-son bond, the most complex relationship on earth, the psychological and development dynamics, explore the attachment, dependency, enmeshment, how early interactions shape male identity, sexuality, and shame. This isn't just theory, it's lived experiences for many. To fully grasp this intricate issue, let's start by zooming out, way out, to a panoramic view of nature itself. Surprisingly, incest, mating between close relatives, is relatively common in the animal world. Insects, for example, frequently practice sibling incest. Fig wasps habitually mate with siblings because unrelated mates are seldom available. Even certain mammals, such as banded mongoose and naked mole rats, intentionally breed within the family group as an evolutionary strategy. Yet, nature generally discourages incest, and for good reasons. Scientifically speaking, inbreeding leads to a phenomenon known as inbreeding depression. Increasing the risk of harmful genetic mutations that can jeopardize survival. Consequently, animals such as chimpanzees, lions, and wolves actively avoid incest through dispersal behaviors, encouraging offspring to seek mates outside their family groups. Well, enough about animals. Let's go ahead and move on to the human race. Early human ancestors and incest. But what about humans? Let's travel back approximately 2 million years to our ancestors, Homo erectus. These ancient human relatives lived in small, scattered groups where incest might seem unavoidable. Yet archaeological discoveries strongly suggest that even these early humans instinctively understood the value of mating beyond their immediate families, driven by biological and social advantages. Jumping forward to about 50,000 years ago, genetic findings paint a different picture for our close cousins, the Neanderthals. Their isolated and dwindling populations frequently resorted to incestuous relationships, which potentially accelerated their extinction by amplifying their genetic vulnerabilities. In contrast, early Homo sapiens, our direct ancestors, actively expanded their social networks. Archaeological sites like Sungir in Russia clearly indicate the deliberate mating with individuals from outside immediate kin groups, laying the groundwork for modern incest prohibitions, from ancient civilizations to modern societies. As humans transitioned from nomadic lifestyles into settled agricultural societies around 10,000 years ago, informal incest avoidance practices evolved into formalized law and deeply rooted cultural norms. Civilizations like ancient Egypt, Babylon, Greece, and Rome explicitly codified prohibitions against incest, though exceptions were often granted to royalty aiming to preserve their divine lineage and political legitimacy. By medieval times, these prohibitions intensified under religious influence. The Catholic Church established strict guidelines to define and preserve clear familiar boundaries, embedded incest prohibitions deeply into moral teachings and societal expectations that remain powerful today. Incest in modern times, a universal taboo. Today, the incest taboo is universally stronger than ever, reinforced by robust scientific evidence highlighting genetic risk and deeply seated cultural aversions. Societies around the world unanimously agree that incest harms individuals, destroys trust, and disrupts the fundamental structure of family life. Among various forms of incest, mother-son incest is especially shrouded in secrecy and misunderstanding. Society finds this type of incest particularly disturbing, as it deeply contradicts our expectations of maternal care and protection. The psychological impacts of mother-son incest. Research reveals that while mother-son incest is relatively rare, its psychological impact is uniquely devastating. Survivors often enduring silent suffering, facing severe trauma, confusion, and overwhelming guilt. Unlike other incestuous scenarios, mother-son abuse often manifests subtly, disguised as ordinary care or affection. This subtly complicates identification and reporting, exacerbating emotional harm. Victims of mother-son incest frequently struggle internally, burdened by societal disbelief, intense shame, and stigmatization. Despite slowly growing awareness, these incidents remain significantly underreported, largely due to the deeply embedded societal bias and disbelief of survivors' discomfort. Largely due to the deeply embedded societal biases and disbelief survivors confront. All right, we're going to continue on with the doctor's corner here. Dr. Hani G. Mileski. Her book, I'm going to plug it again. Please go buy her book. It is worth investing and learning way more than you could ever want to understand about mother-son incest. Not like you want to, but unfortunately some of us do. And so I'm just going to read some major highlines. Chapter 2, mother-son incest means intercourse. That is misconception number 1. And I'm going to use the definition here to define it here. But when an adult uses a child for the adult's own sexual and or emotional gratification, most professionals seem to agree the behavior is defined as misuse. Banning, 1989. Mother-son incest can therefore be defined as inappropriate intimacy and or sexual related contact between the mother and her son. It involves the mother satisfying her own emotional, physical, intimacy, and or sexual needs. Krug, 1989. Please, go buy her book. The Oedipus complex is the nucleus of all neuroses. Freud didn't throw those words around lightly. He wasn't saying some boys have mommy issues. He was saying the entire architecture of the human mind, its fears, its compulsions, its addictions, its despair, can be traced back to what happened between a child and his mother. Think about that. Not just what happened physically, what happened emotionally, what was allowed, what was forbidden, what was confusing, what was silent. When a boy's first experience of love is fused with dependency, shame, or even seduction, what grows inside him is not just longing. It's a wound, a question that never gets answered, a hunger that gets punished, a loyalty that gets weaponized, a love that starts to feel like a crime. And the world doesn't want to hear it. Society says move on. Psychiatry says take the pill. Religion says confess and be clean. But no one says, let's talk about what it meant to love your mother in a house full of silence. So instead it festers. It shows up in sex that feels like punishment, in relationships that crumble under the weight of invisible ghost, in men who disappear into drugs, obsessions, porn, violence, not because they're broken, but because they're still trying to resolve something they were never allowed to name. The Oedipus complex isn't just theory. It's not about killing your father and marrying your mother. That's the myth Freud borrowed, yes. But beneath it is something real. The unbearable tension between love, need, and shame. And what that does to a boy who has never taught how to feel safe in his own heart. Most men aren't monsters. They're haunted children. They learned to bury what they couldn't understand. And now they're digging themselves out, one memory at a time. This isn't a punchline. This isn't the origin story of 1,000 traumas. And if Freud was right, if this is truly the nucleus, then healing doesn't begin by avoiding the subject. It begins by walking directly into it, eyes open, hands steady, and maybe, for the first time, without shame. If you're listening and carry this heavy burden, please remember, you're not alone. Healing is possible, and recognize your experience is an act of tremendous courage. As society becomes more aware and educated, we're beginning to challenge stereotypes, break silences, and create supportive environments where healing can truly begin. Thank you for joining me today on Mother Made. Remember, open conversations lead to the greater awareness, and our awareness fosters growth, healing, and ultimately compassion. Until next time, be gentle with yourselves and with each other. Take care. This This is Just Joe.